UFC 317 is right around the corner, and we got some bangers to talk about. I'm gonna be going through the fight card and breaking some of the fights down, giving my betting predictions. So stay tuned if you want to make some money. We did really well on the last pay-per-view. I did not bet anything on last weekend's card. I was out of town, but some money to be made on this one. So let's get to it. Sit tight. Starting off the card, we have two guys making their UFC debut. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. That's not where I'm going here. I talked about it in my last video, okay? Someone that is making their UFC debut should not be on a pay-per-view card. I will say this until the end of time. Throw those guys on a fight night in the Apex or in Missouri or some shit, but they have no place on an actual pay-per-view card. The prelims on a pay-per-view card should be for those fighters that are either sniffing very close to a rank or ranked. We have fucking 10 divisions. Well, not 10. We have 7, I think, divisions. 15 times 7. Where are all these guys at? Like, there's I don't get why we've got UFC guys that are making their debut who we don't know who they are. They're literally unlocked characters from Skate 2. They're kicking it off. Now, I'm not saying that it's indicative of how the fight's going to go. It could very well be a good scrap, and it probably will be. I'm just being nitpicky here. As a fan of the UFC, that we can all agree 2025 hasn't been the best year for the UFC, especially if you look back on like 2023, 2024. Those were some of the craziest years in the UFC in recent memory, in my opinion. But I digress. Kicking this one off, we got two guys making their UFC debut in the middleweight division. We haven't even unlocked them as characters yet. We don't even have a betting line on these guys, at least on ESPN. But we at least know that this is a big guy for the middleweight division, 6'4", 77-inch reach. I got no cat in this one, but two undefeated guys going at it. Probably going to be a pretty good scrap. We're going to make a blind pick here. Jackson McVeigh. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know either one of these guys. I'm not going to take the time to go and watch and find them on YouTube and watch their first fights or their most recent fights. Just not worth the time. Moving on. Another UFC debutant. Coming from LFA. This is the exact same thing that happened on the last pay-per-view. The first 3 fights on the prelims, I want to say there were 3 people making their UFC debuts. And here we are, 2 fights in, 3 guys making their UFC debuts. I know I'm beating a dead fucking horse here, but it's wild to me that we have pay-per-views where you can't stack the prelims. Like, I remember some cards not too long ago in the land of milk and honey a year or 2 ago, where a pay-per-view event, you couldn't miss a fight. They were very similar to like a UFC 300, not necessarily starting the card off with a Cody Garbrandt, Davis and Figueiredo fight, but you at least had names that your ass was planted on the couch as soon as the first fight started, regardless of if you were a casual or not. So Alvin Hines, 7-0, great. Love that he's 7-0. Put him in an Apex fight night. Let him prove that he can actually be in the UFC and has what it takes to compete in this organization before you throw him on a pay-per-view card. It used to be that we put rising prospects like Peyton Talbot on the prelims, right? Like Malcolm Wellmaker on the prelims of a pay-per-view. Insert any other young prospect that has some fire behind him that is like bringing some notoriety in the crowd. Those are the type of people that need to be on prelims for the pay-per-view, not UFC debutantes. But Jonata Deniz is 3-1 in the UFC. He's a tough bastard. He's got really good kickboxing. Big boy. Looks like he's going to be the smaller guy in there. But I like Onata. So he's a finisher at least. Right? Both of them are. I mean, we're probably going to see someone get knocked out here. But it's the heavyweight division, so you never know. The heavyweight division is the least skillful division right now. It hasn't been in a worse state than it is in a long time. If you go back and look at the heavyweight division when Brock Lesnar was on top of the game in like that time period, heavyweights, yes, I know they were juiced, but they looked like athletes, right? Heavyweights these days, they're not built the same. They all look like they eat little Debbie Hostess bars and zebra cakes during camp. They don't look good. They look like they choose heavyweight because they just want to eat whatever the fuck they want. So we're definitely going to be getting a finish, I think, in this one, or it's going to be two guys that are a little bit. We see this honestly a little too much in the heavyweight division. Guys that respect the other guy's power way too much, and I get it. We can't ask for every heavyweight fight to end in a knockout. That's how most people look at heavyweights. They go, oh, the big boys are fighting, someone's going to go to sleep. And a lot of times it tends to be the opposite. We get these really boring, long, drawn-out sparring matches sometimes with only a couple big shots landed because both guys are scared to engage. And it's like, if that's you, then get out of the heavyweight division. Probably shouldn't be in there. But it happens to be the way that a lot of heavyweights fight these days. So I hope that these two guys get in there and bang like heavyweights should, and we should see someone go out. I'm going to take Deniz. He's got a lot more experience. I think his kickboxing is going to be crisper than Alvin Hines, but Alvin Hines does have the ability to take him down and get submissions. So if you want to hammer the underdog, you can. It wouldn't be a terrible one to hit for a guy that's 7-0 coming into the UFC. Might not be a bad one to take. Moving on, Jacoby Smith and Nico Price. I think they're feeding Nico Price to the wolves here. I like Nico. He's been around for a while. He's 8-8 in the UFC. But Jacoby Smith is a very talented up-and-comer. Minus 3,000 on the odds, though, is crazy work. Minus 3,000. That's wild, guys. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw odds like this. Like Amanda Nunes might have been, maybe Valentina Shevchenko might have opened at like minus 1,500 or something against one of her opponents. Maybe Bo Nickel in one of his like first fights, he might have, especially that late notice fight that he had. The guy with the red stripe in his hair. I can't remember what that guy's name was, but These are pretty crazy odds in fighting. I will say this, every time that I see odds this crazy, that we're talking about fighting here. If this was, you know, in the, I don't even know another sports reference to make that will make sense to MMA fans. Maybe a baseball reference. Be like the prime time Yankees when they had Derek Jeter and A-Rod and they were beating the shit out of everyone. And then you got like the Miami Marlins who are 15-80 on the season. It's like, yeah, you would probably expect to see minus 3,000 in that instance. But when it comes to fighting in this sport, I think that odds like this are always unwarranted because anything can happen. We have seen it time and time again. There is a world where Nico Price beats Jacoby Smith. And there's going to be some happy motherfucker that cashed in on that plus 1,000. I might throw $15 on this just for the hell of it. Because when you see you don't get odds like this anywhere else as often. You might see these odds in other sports every so, a blue moon. But we get these types of odds as fight fans more often than we should. So even if I wholeheartedly believe that Jacoby Smith is going to dominate Nico Price, it's probably going to be a first round finish. He's too fast, way younger. His power for the welterweight division is great. Nico Price has shown that he's got a little bit of a glass chin in recent fights. I don't think that it's going to get out of the first round, and I think that Jacoby Smith is going to make it look pretty easy. But minus 3,000 is wild. Again, there is a world where Nico Price could get this done, but Jacoby Smith is most likely going to improve to 11-0. I want to say Nico Price is on a skid right now. Yeah, he's having a tough go at it. Tough opponents though, man. Philip Rowe, Robbie Lawler, Alex Morono, not really. Brumbo. So he's 1-3 in his last 4. He's having a little bit of some issues. He's getting, listen, he's 35. He loses this, he'll be 16-9, 8-9 in the UFC. I don't know how many fights are left on his contract, but I would assume we're not going to see Nico Price fighting for too much longer. But should be a pretty decent scrap as long as it lasts. All right, moving on. Terrence McKinney and Vyacheslav Borshev. I'm going to go Terrence McKinney in this one. Terrence McKinney came into the scene a couple years ago and made a huge splash. And I think a lot of people thought that he was going to be the next big thing. Because he did. He came in and had some really good highlight finishes as soon as he came in, right? And then he kind of ran into some issues. Nasty TKO against Drew Dober. Nasty TKO against Esteban Ribovics. So he's been stone cold knocked out a few times since his UFC debut not that long ago, but he's been fighting a decent bit. He's very active. I'll give him that. But he's really quick. He's going to have the speed advantage over Borshev. The striking is 100% going to be in Terrence McKinney's. I said it last time Borshev fought. I'm not a huge fan of him. When he first came into the UFC, I thought that he was going to make something of himself. He was kind of, and then he dropped off. I don't know what happened. I don't. He truly, when I first saw his first few fights, I was like, oh, this guy might be doing something. But I think Terrence McKinney is just going to be a little bit too fast for him. There's no way that this ends in any other way than Terrence McKinney winning by knockout and or a decision. Vyacheslav He's not going to submit Terrence McKinney. I don't think he's going to KO Terrence McKinney. As long as Terrence McKinney doesn't do any dumb shit. We've seen Terrence McKinney have some pretty low fight IQ that's gotten him knocked out before. I could see him hurting Vyacheslav and maybe overextending himself and Vyacheslav catching him. So I'm going to go with Terrence McKinney on this one, but he could do some dumb shit and get himself in trouble. So, but we'll go Terrence McKinney. Viviana Araujo and Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez, you know, got good jiu-jitsu. Bro, this is so frustrating. How is someone like this still in the UFC? Like, she's probably, let's see here. Let's see here. She's ranked number 8. Guys. If this doesn't tell you the current state of women's MMA and how fucking boring it is, and I'm not saying that like to be a dick. Like there are certain women's MMA fighters that are super exciting, but overall, especially in certain divisions, it's crazy the lack of skill that there is in women's MMA. You should not be the number 8 ranked women's flyweight in the world with this type of record. She's 2-3 in her last 5. On what planet do we have someone that's 2-3 in their last 5, a ranked fighter? That's a scrub. Tracy Cortez fights once every fucking 2 years, it seems like. Once a year. She's boring as shit. Ugh. Disgusting. 11-2. That is someone that you would expect to be in the rankings. Viviane is in front of Tracy Cortez, and that is most likely due to the inactivity of Tracy Cortez, but wouldn't it be crazy if she subbed Tracy? I'm gonna go Tracy by decision. I would love to see one of her fake eyelashes get knocked off in the middle of a fight again. That was fucking hysterical. I can't remember who that was against that she fought and that happened. Was it Rose or was it Jasmine? It was one of those recent ones, but she got fucking hit so hard her fake eyelash fell off. She had one fake eyelash on for the rest of the fight. But this is a tough one. I'm probably gonna go Tracy Cortez by decision, but it's women's MMA, so anything can happen. Hyder Emil and Jose Miguel Delgado. This is going to be a really fun fight at featherweight. I really think that Jose is going to pose a little bit more of a well-rounded threat than Hyder. Jose is a little bit more wrestle heavy, but Hyder's good on the ground. So I'm not saying that he's going to be able to necessarily like submit Hyder, but I think an okay amount of this fight could take place against the cage, depending on whether or not Jose is able to keep Hyder out of the center of the octagon. If that happens, I could certainly see Jose implementing some wrestling into this game. I think he should. I don't think that he should keep this as a boxing or kickboxing match, because that is where Hyder presents the most issues for him. So if Jose is smart, he's going to try and get Hyder up against the fence, maybe implement some takedowns and get some control time. Again, I don't think he's going to be getting a submission on Hyder, but definitely, if he's smart, should be implementing his reach, or his wrestling, excuse me. He's got a reach advantage. He's younger. He's taller. So, again, not saying that any one of those factors is going to make or break this fight, but throw all that together and his skill set and wrestling, I think we're probably going to see Jose get it done here. Question is it going to be a finish or a decision? I don't think we're going to go decision here. I don't. He's not the type of guy. He's not that guy. I'm going to go Jose by TKO. I don't think we're going to get a sub here. We're going to go Jose by TKO. Moving on. The Joker Jacker Manson versus RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez. Listen, Gregory Rodriguez should be the poster child for Trent. Okay? I don't know how he's been beating all of his USADA tests, but this motherfucker, he's like the Gerber baby for Trent. Or at least he should be. Also, he's 33. He looks like he's 60. Looks like he's been through some shit. But I digress. Jacker Manson, he's been a little inactive. He's had some injuries. He's not ranked right now due to that fact. He's been a little too inactive to keep his ranking, and guys that have been fighting more at middleweight have kind of squeaked in there. But this is going to be a fun fight. I think Gregory Rodriguez is absolutely going to be the more physical guy in there, but I don't think, as far as skills go, I don't think that is going to make as big of a difference in this fight. If he takes Jack Hermanson down, I could certainly see him getting some control time and maybe getting some ground and pound in there. But Jack is proven that he is not easy to keep down, and his striking is good. I like Jack Hermanson a lot. And he's turned around some really talented contenders and prospects that have had some steam behind them, and he stops them in their tracks. Not saying that Gregory Rodriguez is an up-and-coming contender, but this is a fun fight. I like this fight a lot. I'm actually going to go with the underdog Jack Hermanson here. I am. Gregory Rodriguez is tough to get out of there, very, very tough, but it can happen. Jared Cannonier fucked him up. Obviously, Cannonier is a different level fighter than Jack Hermanson, or scarier, a little bit more physical, but he's tough. Gregory Rodriguez is tough. For that reason, I don't know if Jack's going to get him out of there. If he does, it's going to be later, because Gregory Rodriguez tends to gas out a little bit towards the end of the fight. He's got way too much muscle at 185 to carry that around for 3 rounds if someone's putting a pace on him. So I'm going to go Jack Hermanson. It's either going to be a late finish or a decision, but we're going with the betting underdog here, Joker. Moving on, Peyton Talbot and Felipe Lima. I don't like this matchup for Peyton Talbot. I don't at all. I think the UFC is saying, they're asking him some questions here. Have you been working on your ground game since you got dominated by Raoni Barcelos at your last fight? Now, going back to what I was talking about in the beginning of this video of how the prelims should be guys like this. We just saw Peyton Talbot get dominated by a Raoni Barcelos, right? Looked terrible. It looked like he had never done anything on the ground in any of his camps, in any training, right? Now, they pair him up with a real submission threat, okay? Raoni Barcelos doesn't really present submission threats. He just takes you down, controls you, and grinds you and beats you up. Felipe, he's going to hunt for submissions. He's also a very talented striker. Very. This is an extremely tough matchup for Peyton Talbot coming off of the loss that he had. Like, I do not like this matchup for Peyton one bit. Because Felipe is quicker. He's way better on the feet than Rowney. Way better. And his submission threats are there. Like, his jiu-jitsu is really good, and his takedown is also there. So I do not like this fight for Peyton Talbot. I don't. Like, if he keeps that pace that he does, I could really see Felipe eating up that front leg of Peyton Talbot just because of the stance that Peyton Talbot has. And it's, guys, I don't like this match for Peyton Talbot. I would have really liked to have seen them give him a little bit less of a test than this. Like, Felipe Lima is one of the more talented prospects that we have at bantamweight right now. As far as like his age goes, he's really young. But I don't like this fight for Peyton Talbot. I think he's going to get worked. I could see him getting submitted by Felipe. I really could. Am I locking that in? Am I crazy here? I don't think I'm crazy here. After seeing Peyton Talbot on the ground last time, here's the thing. Either Peyton went back to the drawing board and we're going to see a completely different fighter in Peyton once it hits the ground, because don't get it twisted. If Felipe feels that there's any danger on the feet, he is going to take this to the ground. And he might even do that regardless if he feels good on the feet, right? But we're going to see whether or not Peyton actually takes this shit seriously and went back to the drawing board and worked on his takedown defense and being able to get up. So that's the question. That's the hard part, because if Peyton Talbot worked on his takedown defense, and if he worked on being able to get up once he's taken down, this fight will be really good. It'll be a lot more competitive. But right now, I don't like this matchmaking. On the feet, he's got a height advantage and a reach advantage, but that doesn't always mean much. It doesn't. But I'm going to go Felipe Lima. I think Peyton Talbot is he's going to be drug into some deep waters here. I could potentially see him getting submitted. Yeah, I don't like this. And this should not be the pay-per-view opener. It should have been on the prelims. Anyways, moving on. Beneil Dariush and Renato Moicano. I'll go ahead and say it. Ever since Beneil Dariush came back and beat Jakar Close after Jakar Close had him really hurt, and then he came back, and very reminiscent of that Pat Barry fight where he had Homie on the ropes and then ended up getting flatlined. Very similar, right? But ever since then, he hasn't really looked great, in my opinion. He looks old. Like, he looks slow in there. He just doesn't seem mean enough when he steps in there. He just seems so nice. And Renato Moicano is going to present a lot of issues for him. Now, here's the good thing for Beneil. Renato's striking isn't like anything to be marveled at. It's not crazy good. Like, it's pretty decent, right? But I think the more significant, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if Moicano gets Beneil down to the ground, Beneil's not going to get submitted, I don't think. Like, Beneil's got pretty damn good jiu-jitsu. But I kind of like this matchmaking. I don't mind it. Beneil's like 1-3, I think, in his last 4. No, 2-3 in his last 5. So he lost to Sarukian and lost to Charles Oliveira. Got knocked out by both. So he's coming off two fight skid. This could potentially be his last fight in the UFC. Could be. Three fights losing skid in a row. They could also, depending on how many fights he has left on his contract, if he loses to Renato, they could give him some confidence booster or one last guy to go out on some scrub that's unranked. But I don't know. Every time I see him walk out, I'm like, this guy looks so old for 36. And when he gets in there, he doesn't seem like he has that fire that other fighters do. Moicano is going to be really pumped up to get in there. He wants to make that money. I'm going to go with Renato Moicano on this one. Am I? Am I going to spice things up? My heart is telling me that for some reason that Beneil is going to come out there with a chip on his shoulder and take it to Renato. And then my head's telling me that, hey, dumbass, Renato is going to be too much. Like Beneil's jiu-jitsu is good enough, right? Like I don't think that he's gonna get subbed. I really don't. I might throw 2 bets on this guy. I might go Beneil Dariush money line, Renato Moicano by submission. Is that crazy? Might be. I'm going Beneil Dariush money line. Moving on, Joshua Van and Brandon Royval. I made a whole video on this fight. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. I made it pretty much right after Joshua Van won his last fight, flatlining his opponent once again. I think he's getting a little bit too big of a step up in competition here, truthfully. I think that he is no doubt a very talented prospect and is one of the most talented prospects that we've seen come in the UFC in a long time, especially for 23 years of age, right? He is a very high volume boxer. He's got good takedowns. He's got good takedown defense. Now, we haven't seen him necessarily have to do anything jiu-jitsu wise against someone that actually presents threats, which Brandon Royval does. Brandon Royval has got some slick, very crafty jiu-jitsu. He's long and lanky for 125. So I think that as far as the grappling goes, Brandon Royval has a very clear advantage in this fight. And then striking-wise, Brandon Royval is a very dynamic and deep bag of tricks, if you will, when it comes to striking. He mixes things up beautifully, especially when he's on and flowing. He looks incredible. And I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder going into this fight. And I just think that it's going to be a little bit of a too big of a step up in competition. Here's how I envision this going. Ready? I envision Brandon Royval feeling threatened on the feet at some point in this fight, whether it happens early on or not. But he is going to feel threatened at some point in this fight, and he is going to take Joshua Van down. I do think that his takedown ability is going to be able to finish the takedown. And we'll see very quickly whether or not Joshua Van is going to be able to swim in those waters or not. If he doesn't get up, Brandon Royval is going to get some control time and beat him up on the ground, maybe hunt for some submissions. And this is where we're going to see for the first time where Joshua Van lies as far as grappling skills go. But I think that this is a little bit of a big step up in competition for Van. I think Brandon Royval is going to get it done. Could be by submission, but I could also see this being a decision win as well. But I think Brandon Royval is going to get it done. A little bit too big of a step up for Joshua Van. If he does get it done, wowzers, props to him. He should be fighting, Pantoja most likely for the belt next after this fight, or I guess the winner of Pantoja and Kai Kara-France. But this is most likely a title eliminator here, which would be crazy for Joshua Van. That'd be a wild come up, going from like unranked to fighting for the title within like 2 fights, right? But just goes to show you that if you take opportunities in the UFC that you go out and take, that you can make some shit happen real quick. So props to Joshua Van for taking this fight, as well as Brandon Royval. He has a lot to lose here. He's got a lot to lose. He could potentially move back a good few spots in the rankings. So moving on, Alexandre Pantoja and Kai Kara France. This is a tough one. So he loses to Brandon Royval because he gets a body kick that shuts him down right to the liver, right? And loses to Albazi. Wins his last fight, and now we're fighting for a championship. So that's a little weird, coming off one win. But I like Kai Kara France. He always puts on a really fun fight. He brings the pace every single time. And that's going to be the interesting part of this fight, is Alexandre Pantoja also brings a very, very heavy forward pace. He keeps his guard high. He walks you down. He uses his jab very effectively. Kai Kara France also wants to put his guys on the back foot. So I think we're going to see these two meet in the middle of the octagon frequently. We're going to see some phone booth exchanges between these two. I think it's going to be a banger of a fight. I don't think that we're going to see it go to 5 rounds. I think we're going to see a finish. Oh my God, man. This is a tough fight to call, because they're both so well-rounded. I think Alexandre Pantoja probably has the better jiu-jitsu. But Kai Kara France is super scrappy and scrambly when it comes to the ground. So, not saying that Kai Kara France, it doesn't have a danger of getting submitted, but I think most of this fight is going to take place on the feet. We might see some wrestling from Pantoja if he gets in trouble on the feet from Kai Kara France, but I'm going to take the betting underdog here. Kai Kara France is going to get it done. I really liked him in his fight against Brandon Moreno, and I think if that leg kick didn't happen, we may have seen Kai Kara France edge that fight out, but I'm going with the underdog here. Hot take, Kai Kara France, new flyweight champion come Saturday night. How he's going to get it done, I think we might see a TKO. Crazy win streak. Pantoja's never been TKO'd. So I'm calling big shots here. Oh, fuck, guys. It's been subbed 3 times. I just don't like. This is a tough one. He hasn't been subbed in a long time. It's been 10 years since he's been subbed. But fuck it. I'm going Kai Kara France. I'm not letting myself get second guessed here. Kai Kara France, new flyweight champ. Main event, Ilia Topuria and Charles do Bronx Oliveira. This is about as good of matchmaking as you can get. It is. Charles Oliveira is known as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, but his striking is also very good. Very good. He drops most of his opponents and hurts them a lot in their fights. He just has sometimes a little bit of trouble finishing. But he's got power in his hands, no doubt about it. Ilia Topuria has dynamite in his hands, no doubt about it. He's coming off of, he's reeling at this point, coming off of knockout wins over Volkanovski, who was the absolute GOAT at featherweight, and then comes off of a highlight historic TKO knockout of Max Holloway, who had never been dropped or knocked out before or finished, and he did it. And now he's moving up, putting on 10 more pounds, probably a lot closer to what he walks around at every day. I'm sure Ilia Topuria walks around 175. Maybe, yeah, probably 175, 170. So he's probably gonna cut down still a decent bit, but his power is gonna be way more pronounced at 155. Gosh. And here's the thing is, Charles Oliveira's got a pretty good check hook. And Ilia does too. But Ilia likes that combination where he'll go body, pivot, head, and there's a split second. I saw it in the Max Holloway fight. Max was hurt, so he was on the defensive. He wasn't really thinking about countering. There was a split second there. Split second. Where Ilia Topuria's chin was wide open. And Charles Oliveira is a good enough striker to find that chin if it's left open. So I think that both of these guys have the potential to be hurt in this fight. Like, both are probably going to get tagged a little bit. But the interesting part of this is this going to go to the ground? And what happens when it goes to the ground? I've said this before. Charles Oliveira does have really good jiu-jitsu, and he's a submission threat from the top, no doubt about it. But his real submission threat is when you're in his guard and he's on his back and you're trying to rain down punches on him. Ilia Topuria has very good jiu-jitsu. You're not going to catch him there. You're just not. I would eat my fucking foot if Ilia Topuria gets triangled or armbarred from Charles' close guard. Like, I don't see a world where that takes place. But we might see some really fun jiu-jitsu exchanges between these guys. On the other hand, I could see them both knowing that there's a real threat down there and that they don't want to go there. And so we might see this entire fight play out on the feet. But I do think that Ilia Topuria is, volume-wise, going to present a little bit of an issue for Charles Oliveira. I could see Charles Oliveira maybe... Hear me out. I'm envisioning this fight in my head right now, and I see Charles Oliveira getting backed up on his back foot, and I see Ilia Topuria peppering him with his jab, and then a hard right straight down the pipe rocks Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira doesn't like it, shoots a sloppy takedown on Ilia Topuria, and Topuria snatches his neck up and guillotines him. Submission round 3. Lock it the fuck in. What do you think about that storytelling? I'm going Ilia Topuria. Whether it's going to be TKO or sub, I don't know. But if a sub's going to happen, that's how it's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a submission where they're on the ground grappling already and he catches them in a transition, or just, passes his guard and then works towards a submission. I don't think that's the case. I do see a potential for a submission win by Ilia if he hurts Charles and Charles does shoot a sloppy shot and he takes that neck home with him. There's also a world where Ilia Topuria absolutely flatlines Charles Oliveira. Exciting matchmaking. I'm really pumped for this one. Overall, this card is great. I'm going Ilia Topuria over Charles Oliveira in the main event. But there's some decent underdogs on this fight. Not as many as the last few cards that we've had, but overall, pay-per-view is solid. I think they should have probably switched Peyton Talbot and Jack Hermanson, most likely. Probably had Peyton Talbot as the featured prelim, because we just don't have a lot of names down here. We got Nico Price, Terrence McKinney, Jack Hermanson, maybe Tracy Cortez for all the MMA fans that, So, I'll say it again. You guys are going to get tired of me saying this shit on this channel, but I don't care. Pay-per-views should not have 3 people making their fucking UFC debuts. I will die on that hill anytime I see a UFC debut on a pay-per-view card in general, regardless if it's the prelims or not. You're gonna hear me bitch and complain about it because it's stupid. It's stupid. Pay-per-views get a lot more eyes. You should be building people on pay-per-views. People like Peyton Talbot, right? And I'm just using his as an example because, you know, you could say Bo Nickel too. Bo Nickel should not have been on a pay-per-view, right? Bo Nickel is the type of guy you throw on a featured prelim. The fight right before the pay-per-view switches over. Exciting guys like Joshua Van, pay-per-view. Like, imagine that. You got like a Bo Nickel matchup here, a Joshua Van, instead of him being, I know he's fighting Royval, so it you know, pay-per-view worthy because of Royval, I'd assume. But like a Joshua Van versus another guy that's coming up in that flyweight division. I'm just saying, like, I get that you got to get people their fights, but this bullshit, it's the second pay-per-view in a row where we've got multiple people making debuts on a numbered pay-per-view card. So that's really my only gripe with this card. Other than that, the matchmaking is really good. We've got some exciting fights on the pay-per-view. Let me know your thoughts below. Who do you think is going to take home the new lightweight belt and the new flyweight belt? Are we going to see a changing? Well, I guess not a changing because the lightweight belt is vacant. So who's going to take home the vacant lightweight belt? Is it going to be Charles or Ilya? And is there going to be a new flyweight king in Kai Kara-France, or is Alexandre Pantoja going to continue his impressive winning streak and turn away another very dangerous title contender? Let me know your thoughts below. Appreciate you stopping by as always. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.